He fought for our freedom. But when he asked for just one last moment with the dog who saved his life, the judge coldly said no. The courtroom fell silent until one woman stood up. Karoline Levitt wasn't there for headlines. She was there for truth. As tears welled in the veteran's eyes, Karoline exposed a shocking web of judicial corruption hiding behind that cruel decision. What started as a simple request from a wounded hero became a national outcry for justice, one that would shake the system to its core. This isn't just about a man and his dog. It's about who we are as a country. Watch closely. And before we begin, let us know where you're tuning in from, and hit subscribe so you never miss a story that still believes in honor, truth, and fighting for the little guy. The courtroom was cold, not from the air, but from something else, something deeper. A sterile silence hung thick in the air as former Army Sergeant Ethan Brooks sat in his wheelchair, his uniform medals catching the fluorescent light. But they didn't shine like they used to, not since Afghanistan, not since the day everything changed. Beside him, Blitz, his military-trained German shepherd, sat perfectly still, alert, focused, loyal. Blitz wasn't just a dog, he was a fellow soldier, a brother, a lifeline. And now, he was about to be taken away. Judge William Caldwell sat high on the bench, robe crisp, gavel in hand, his gaze impersonal as he read from a prepared statement. According to Department of Defense policy, military working dog Blitz is to be returned to active training and reassigned. Ethan looked up, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Sir, please. Blitz saved my life. He pulled me out after the blast. He stayed with me through the worst. I can't just let him go." "Sergeant Brooks," the judge interrupted, voice like ice. "This is not an emotional hearing. This is an official military reassignment." Murmurs filled the courtroom. Veterans, local supporters, and a few family members exchanged glances. Some shook their heads. A few had tears in their eyes. Ethan clenched his fists in his lap. His legs didn't work anymore, but his soul burned with the fire of a man who had once led men into battle. Blitz leaned his head gently against Ethan's leg. And then, something strange happened. Blitz's ears perked up. He stood and barked. Not once, not twice, but a flurry of sharp, urgent barks that echoed through the courtroom. Everyone froze. Only Ethan understood what it meant. Blitz had only ever barked like that when something was wrong, when danger was close. Caldwell slammed the gavel. "Control that animal," Ethan tried. "Blitz, easy." But the dog refused to settle. His eyes were fixed on the hallway behind the judge's bench. The room was now humming with anxiety. Something didn't feel right. It wasn't just a legal hearing anymore. It was a warning, and the dog knew it. 2 miles away, in a modest hotel room soaked in dim winter light, Karoline Levitt stared at her phone, transfixed. Save Blitz was everywhere. 1.2 million tweets, videos, photos. A clip of Blitz barking in court was already viral. The comment section wasn't just outrage. It was heartbreak. Patriots, veterans, single moms, kids, all united in one plea. Let him say goodbye. Let him keep the dog. Karoline turned away from the screen. She rubbed her eyes, feeling the pressure build behind them. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not in New Hampshire. Not in this mess. But the president had called her personally. "Karoline," he said, "this is about more than a dog. It's about what we stand for. Fix this. Expose it if you have to. Just make it right." So she came, with a briefcase full of documents, with intel no one else had, with a gut feeling that the real battle hadn't even started. She sat at the edge of the bed, flipping through printed files. On one page, Judge Caldwell's financial records. There, clear as day, 3 payments, Blackthorn Dynamics, $1.8 million total, each wired to offshore accounts just months before the Blitz reassignment hearing. Karoline swallowed hard. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a sellout. She picked up her tablet and opened the classified folder she received from a journalist named Rachel Harper. Project Sentinel, a top-secret defense contract developing biological enhancements for military dogs. Enhanced detection, biodata collection, encrypted implants, surveillance capabilities. Blitz was one of them. But he wasn't supposed to survive deployment. He wasn't supposed to return with a memory. One line in the memo made her freeze. Subject BZ-12 must be retrieved. Potential data breach. Handler emotionally compromised. Remove and contain. BZ-12. That wasn't just a code name. It was Blitz. Karoline stood up slowly, her breath shaky. This wasn't about a reassignment. This wasn't about policy. This was about a dog that knew too much. A judge who was paid to shut it down. And a system that thought no one would notice. But they hadn't counted on millions of voices rising in defense of a soldier and his dog. And they hadn't counted on Karoline Levitt. She tucked the files into her leather case, zipped it shut, and stepped into the hallway. Downstairs, her driver waited. The courtroom was only minutes away. She didn't know what she'd face when she got there. But she knew one thing. She wouldn't let that gavel fall, not without a fight. The courtroom buzzed like a power line about to snap. Phones vibrated in pockets. Murmurs slipped between lips like secrets too hot to hold. People weren't just attending anymore. They were bearing witness. Ethan sat stone still in his wheelchair. Blitz by his side, ears perked. Unmoving now, but electric with tension. His loyal gaze never left the hallway where just moments ago, something unseen had stirred his primal instincts. Then, the doors creaked, and she entered. Karoline Levitt. Platinum hair pulled into a clean bun. Eyes hard as diamond. Leather folder in hand. She walked not like a guest, but like a reckoning. A murmur passed through the room like wind through dry grass. Reporters raised their phones. Veterans sat up straighter. The judge looked up and flinched. "Miss Levitt," Judge Caldwell said, mouth twitching in what could only be described as forced civility. "This is a closed hearing. The executive branch—" "With respect, Your Honor," Karoline cut in, her voice clear, unwavering. "This hearing is now a matter of national concern, and as White House press secretary, I'm here under the direct authorization of the President of the United States." Gasps, camera flashes. Caldwell's gavel slammed. "Order! Order in the court!" But Karoline didn't stop. She walked straight to the bench, placed the folder down like a detonator, and opened it. "This is evidence," she said, "of a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme involving this court and Blackthorn Dynamics, a contractor with ties to biochemical weapons, classified dog enhancement programs, and the illegal use of soldier canines as data vaults." Blitz let out a low growl. Caldwell's face went pale. Karoline pulled a page from the folder and read aloud. "Transfer $500,000 to Judge Caldwell's offshore account. Ensure Blitz is ruled property of the state and return to Blackthorn. Project Sentinel's exposure risk is high." The crowd erupted. A woman stood and shouted, "This is a hero, not a chip on legs." A vet in the back slammed his cane against the floor. "Shame on this system." Caldwell's gavel was useless now. His hand trembled. "This is preposterous," he sputtered. "This court will not be hijacked by—" But Karoline raised her voice over him, calm and strong. "Your Honor, I have with me sworn affidavits, encrypted banking data, and a signed testimony from a former Blackthorn engineer. And in 15 minutes, the FBI will arrive with a federal warrant for your arrest." The room fell deathly silent. Then the back doors burst open, and Marcus Kane walked in. And he was tall, sharp, ice-eyed and calm. Wearing a black suit that looked stitched from shadows, Marcus Kane moved with the confidence of a man who didn't need permission. Two men flanked him, mercenaries unmistakably. Not guards, not lawyers, killers. "Everyone stay seated," Kane said almost politely. He looked directly at Ethan. "At ease, soldier. I'm here for the dog." Ethan's jaw locked. His body tensed. Blitz rose beside him, lips curling back. Karoline stepped between them, voice steel. "You step any closer to that veteran or that animal, and you'll find out how fast the First Amendment turns into the Second." Kane chuckled softly. "Ms. Levitt, you're smart, but this is bigger than you. That dog holds data linked to a $4 billion weapons cache. If that chip leaks, Entire governments fall. And yet, she said, you still talk like it's about national security, when we all know it's about money. Kane's smile faded. Judge, he said, turning, issue the ruling. Give us the dog, or I'll make it messy. Caldwell looked like a man cornered by his own reflection. I, but he didn't get to finish, because Blitz barked, loud, piercing, and lunged, straight toward Kane. The courtroom exploded. People screamed. Reporters ducked. One of Kane's men drew a weapon, but Ethan had trained for chaos. Even in a wheelchair, his body moved like memory. He grabbed the armrest, launched himself forward, and sent his chair crashing into Kane's legs. Karoline tackled the second guard. Blitz hit the mercenary's chest like a missile, teeth finding flesh, pinning the man against the witness stand. The gavel clattered to the floor. And then, sirens. Red and blue lights strobed the stained windows of the courthouse. The FBI Kane tried to run. Blitz caught his coat, yanking him to the ground. Federal agents, hands up! Shouts, metal cuffs, screams of protest. The courtroom became a battlefield of justice. Karoline, breathing heavy, stood upright, hair tousled, heart racing. She looked to Ethan, who held Blitz's head, whispering, "Good boy, good boy." The FBI read the charges aloud. Judge William Caldwell, you are under arrest for bribery, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The crowd erupted into cheers. One woman sobbed. A man saluted. A veteran hugged his grandson. Karoline turned to the crowd and raised her voice for the live streams, now watching worldwide. This isn't just about one man and his dog. This is about every soldier who was left behind. Every secret sold to the highest bidder. And the truth, we're done letting it be buried. Behind her, Blitz stood tall. Not just a dog, a soldier, a symbol, a spark. A week had passed since the courthouse turned into a war zone of truth, but the echoes hadn't faded. They'd only grown louder. Judge Caldwell had been denied bail. The charges now stretched beyond bribery. He was being investigated for conspiracy to defraud the United States and aiding a foreign-linked defense group. Blackthorn's contracts were suspended. Investigations had launched across 3 states and 2 military districts. But the nation wasn't talking about that. They were talking about one man, one dog, and one woman who wouldn't let corruption win. Karoline Leavitt sat before a packed press room at the White House. Cameras blinked, lights blazed, millions tuned in across the country. She wasn't speaking just as press secretary. She was speaking as a witness, a fighter, a protector. Project Sentinel, she said, voice steady, was a classified operation built on noble intentions and corrupt execution. Dogs like Blitz were supposed to save lives, not become hostages for data profiteering. She paused. And Ethan Brooks? He wasn't just a soldier abandoned by the system. He became the man who forced this country to reckon with the value of loyalty, service, and truth. Photos flashed across the screen behind her. Ethan and Blitz. The courtroom moment. Blitz pinning Kane to the floor. The country hadn't seen images this raw since 9/11. Karoline's voice softened. I've spoken with the president, and I'm honored to announce that Blitz has been officially recognized as a decorated war hero and legally adopted by Sergeant Ethan Brooks. His service is no longer government property, his loyalty is not for sale, and his home is forever. Applause erupted in the press room. Veterans wept. In New Hampshire, Ethan turned off the TV and looked at Blitz lying peacefully beside him. We made it, boy, he whispered, voice thick with emotion. We made it. Spring came early that year. In a quiet corner of a New Hampshire field, children laughed, flags waved, and a new sign went up on the white fence. The Brooks Center for Healing, Therapy Dogs for Veterans. It had been Ethan's idea. Clara, his tireless sister, had crowdfunded it. Donations flooded in after Karoline's speech, over $2.7 million in 3 weeks. Blitz trotted beside Ethan, wearing a small vest with a patch that read, Trainer, not trainee. Karoline visited for the grand opening. She didn't bring cameras, just a hug. You gave more than your blood, she told Ethan. You gave your story. And because of that, others will find their way back home too. He smiled through tears. You gave me the mic, Karoline, and the shield when I needed one. Nearby, a little girl with pigtails knelt to pet Blitz. The dog leaned gently into her hand. My daddy used to have nightmares, she said. He smiles more now. He says Blitz is brave. Ethan watched, heart full. That dog's been brave every day of his life, he murmured. Karoline turned to the crowd that had gathered. Veterans, families, survivors, truth seekers. Let this center be a promise, she said, that when one of ours comes home broken, we don't look away. We don't strip them of what kept them alive. We lift them up, with our arms, with our voices, with our hearts. The flag rose above them, wind catching it just right. As the crowd applauded, Ethan knelt beside Blitz. You're not just my partner, he whispered. You're my beginning. And Blitz, as if he understood every word, leaned in, resting his head on Ethan's chest. The crowd stilled at the sight. Because some things don't need speeches, don't need politics, just the quiet truth of a bond that war forged, corruption threatened, but love and courage protected. Karoline looked to the horizon. Blackthorn had fallen, but there would be others. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small dog tag, the one Blitz had worn in Afghanistan. She pressed it into Ethan's palm. Keep this close, she said. He nodded. Always. As they walked back toward the center, Karoline's voice, captured by a nearby mic, was heard across a final stream broadcast. If you believe in justice for our veterans, if you believe that no bond forged in war should ever be severed in silence, then share their story, speak it, live it, because Ethan and Blitz didn't just survive. They showed us what it means to stand and what it means to never, ever let go. If this story moved you, share it. Comment below with your prayers, your thanks, or your own story of loyalty and hope. And remember, justice isn't given, it's protected. Thank you for standing with Ethan. Thank you for standing with Blitz. And thank you for standing for what's right. Our country, save Blitz, forever subscribe to stay connected. Because the mission lives on.